A father's heartwarming journey. How his unlikely choice led to an incredible transformation. Tom's heartache was etched into the very fabric of his being. Every day, at Gus's diner, he poured hot coffee and flipped burgers, all the while wearing a smile that masked the pain of losing Mary. The small Midwestern town he called home was both a blessing and a curse. Everyone knew him, and in their knowing, they often felt pity for his situation. But Tom had to be strong for Emily, his spirited 16-year-old daughter. She was the light of his life, and he was determined to give her a better future, even when it felt like the world was closing in. One evening, after a long shift, Tom returned home to find Emily sprawled across the couch, surrounded by college brochures. The shimmering words Huntley High glinted in her hopeful eyes. She'd received a scholarship, a treasured opportunity. But as pride swelled in Tom's chest, fear gripped his heart. What if she got too close to a world he could never fully understand? He worried that in pursuing her dreams, she might slip away, leaving him alone with the memories of a life they shared. The coming storm felt like a mirror to his turmoil. The sky darkened, and rain chased the last rays of sunlight from the horizon. Panic gripped the town as thunder roared, turning the streets into muddy rivers. People gathered at Gus's diner, seeking refuge, connection, and perhaps a momentary escape from their problems. As he served steaming plates of comfort food, he overheard snippets of conversation filled with community spirit. Neighbors shared stories, laughter, supplies. Together they faced the storm. Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the diner, and a sound like thunder shook the building. Tom's hands trembled. Could he ask for help? He saw his customers, folks who typically looked past him, mingling and sharing. In that moment of desperation, would he let his pride keep him from the community he had once counted on? Emily, sensing the internal struggle within her father, felt her heart race. A question lingered. Would her success at Huntley come at a cost? She had watched him toil through sleepless nights and unyielding days, and knew how deeply he loved her. But the thought of leaving him behind weighed heavily on her young shoulders. Would she still make him proud, or would she become another source of pain in his battle against loneliness? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the storm outside worsened, chaos cracked through the diner. A loud crash echoed, sending chairs clattering and hearts racing. Tom's chest tightened, and in that split second, clarity surged through him. He realized that this community, weathered and weary, was his lifeline. It wasn't about pride. It was about connection and humanity. He needed them just as much as they needed him. As he stood amidst the whirlwind of fear and confusion, he felt a pull towards vulnerability, to lean into the very lessons he had taught Emily about fortitude and family. But would he be brave enough to do so as the winds rattled against the diner, shaking the foundations of everything they knew? In that moment, surrounded by the roiling storm, both father and daughter stared into an uncertain future, hearts entwined, bracing for the challenges that lay ahead. What awaited them on the other side of this chaos? Only time would tell. The storm raged on, but inside the diner, a different kind of energy brewed. Tom looked around, noticing the familiar faces of his regular customers, the laughter mingling with the thunder outside. He caught Andy, the local mechanic, sharing a joke with Mrs. Johnson, the town's librarian, who was known for her overall kindness. A flicker of warmth spread through Tom's chest. Despite the chaos, a sense of unity thrived. "Hey, Tom. You need help?" Andy called out, noticing Tom's stillness. He was breaking through the wall of silence encasing Tom's mind. "I'll be all right," Tom replied, but even to himself, the words felt hollow. Emily, watching her father closely, sensed the turmoil within him. She knew this was a moment that could change everything. Gathering her courage, she slipped beside him. "Dad, maybe it's time to let them in. You don't have to do this alone." Her words pierced through his self-doubt. Could he really share his burden? The thought alone was terrifying, yet something within him began to shift. Tom glanced over the diner, seeing the faces lit with laughter and concerned people who had lived their own stories of heartache and joy alongside him. When the thunder boomed again, a sudden surge of determination flooded Tom. He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves as he addressed the diners. "I want to say something." Every head turned, and silence enveloped the room, a collective breath held in anticipation. "I've been struggling since Mary passed," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I've tried to keep everything together, but I can't do it alone anymore. Emily is chasing her dreams, and I'm terrified I'll lose her in the process. I need your support, your friendship. You've always been here for me." At first, only the sound of rain tapping against the windows filled the space, but then a ripple of murmurs began to swell. From across the diner, Andy nodded firmly. "You've always been there for us, Tom. We're here for you, too." Mrs. Johnson smiled warmly. "You're not losing Emily. You're both growing together. We'll help with anything you need." Tears stung Tom's eyes for the first time. He felt the weight of isolation shift. In sharing his fears, he had unknowingly invited others into his world, and in turn, he felt lighter. Emily beamed at her father, pride mingling with relief. The storm outside still howled, but inside the diner, hope flickered like candlelight. They shared stories of resilience, laughter mixed with tears, creating a tapestry of experiences that bound them. As the evening unfolded and conversations flowed, Tom couldn't remember the last time he felt this connected, this alive. But beneath the surface, as the storm raged on, a deeper truth stirred within him. What would happen when the storm passed? Would their newfound closeness withstand the challenges that lay ahead? Tom glanced at Emily, her eyes gleaming with possibility, and he knew their journey was just beginning. As the last of the thunder rumbled in the distance, a new question hung in the air. What would it take for them both to embrace the changes waiting just beyond the storm's end? Behind the laughter, Tom felt a chill as the reality of the unknown loomed. Where would they go from here? The murmur of voices filled the diner, creating an atmosphere tinged with warmth and healing. Tom felt lighter, the chains of silence that had bound him slowly dissolving in the shared atmosphere. Laughter erupted as Andy recounted a particularly funny mishap at the garage, his face animated, drawing everyone in. For the first time in months, Tom joined in the laughter, letting it echo inside him, mingling with the sound of rain outside. "See, Dad? It's going to be all right," Emily whispered, her hand resting on his shoulder, grounding him. The world outside might be chaotic, but in this moment, order reigned within the diner. It was a refuge, a reminder that community mattered. After a few more emotional stories, Mrs. Johnson turned to Tom again. "You know, Tom, we should plan a gathering. Something fun. A picnic maybe? Just to lift everyone's spirits after all this." Her eyes sparkled with ideas. "A picnic sounds great." A voice chimed in from the back. Others nodded in agreement, and soon the diner buzzed with suggestions, games, potluck dishes, and who would bring the blankets. Tom felt a swell of gratitude as people rallied around, eager to nurture something good. As the conversation flowed, Emily's gaze drifted to the window, lost in thought. She had always appreciated her father's strength, how he could always make things right. But now, she saw in him a vulnerability that both terrified and empowered her. She leaned closer to him, her voice quiet. "You know, Dad, it's okay to be scared. It shows you care, it shows you love." Tom nodded, capturing the essence of her words. It truly was okay. If he was going to let others in, he had to embrace his fears too. Just then, the lights flickered, plunging the diner momentarily into darkness. Gasps echoed as a few patrons instinctively reached for each other. Emily squeezed Tom's hand tightly. But within an instant, the lights returned, brighter than before. Laughter erupted again as they all settled back down, brushing off their momentary fright. Yet, for Tom, the flicker sparked something deeper within him, a realization that the storm outside was the only challenge they faced. "I have an idea," Tom said, raising his voice above the hum of chatter. "What if, after the storm passes, we create something special? A community project, maybe something to honor those we've lost and bring us closer together?" Surprised, a hush fell over the diner once more. Each person processed his words, thinking of how they could contribute, how they could heal together. Emily's eyes widened, filled with wonder at her father's newfound determination. "Like a memorial garden?" someone offered timidly from the back. "Yes." Tom's enthusiasm bubbled. "And not just a memorial, maybe we can turn it into a community space, somewhere we can all gather, something beautiful that grows over time, just like we all are. It could be a place to connect, to remember, and to dream." The diner buzzed with energy, ideas bouncing off the walls. Tom felt invigorated, seeing the spark in the faces around him. But a question gnawed at his heart: was he truly ready to take on such a monumental task? What if he failed or let everyone down? As laughter and hope wrapped around them, the storm seemed to recede, but Tom sensed a new storm brewing. One of expectations and dreams that hung heavy in the air, a test of his commitment, not just to himself, but to his community and to Emily. Tom stole a glance at his daughter, who sat with a hopeful smile on her face. What if their journey forward didn't just start with a picnic, but with a commitment to change the fabric of their community forever? Feeling the weight of these possibilities, he couldn't help but wonder, were they truly ready for this new chapter? As the storm's echo faded outside, the real challenge loomed ever heavier inside. The chatter around the diner swirled like a gentle breeze, filling the space with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The idea of a community project had lit a fire within Tom, igniting a passion he thought had long dimmed. He looked around at the familiar faces, many eager and inspired, but he could also see pause in some eyes, skepticism and uncertainty lingering just beneath the surface. "Tom, what do you think about planting a tree at the center?" Andy suggested, his voice full of enthusiasm. "Something big, like an oak. A tree that represents strength." The thought stoked Tom's spirit. An oak would indeed stand tall and resilient, just like the community they were trying to foster. "Yeah, that's perfect," Tom replied, his heart racing. "We could have a small ceremony. The first planting could be a time for reflection, a way to remember those we lost. People could share stories." Laughter, his words hung in the air, thick with emotion. Emily watched him, her eyes shimmering with pride. She could see that her father was becoming the very man he always wanted to be, the one who stood firm in the face of challenges and embraced vulnerability as a path to strength. Her heart swelled not only for him, but for the community, who were ready to lift each other up. As the ideas flowed, people started to coordinate roles. Someone mentioned organizing shifts for watering the plants, while another suggested bringing in local artists to help shape the garden. Tom felt a twinge of hope splice through him. This wasn't just a project, it was a manifestation of their collective spirit. Yet, shadows of doubt intruded on Tom's moment of clarity. What if organizing this garden became too much? Would people remain committed when hard times came? The whispers of his insecurities brushed against his mind. Embracing the challenge meant opening himself to potential failures. But as laughter echoed around him, and the space filled with a renewed energy, Tom pushed those doubts aside. He caught Emily's eye again, and this time her smile seemed brighter, as if to say, You can do this, Dad." Just then, Mrs. Johnson, filled with warmth, caught his gaze. "Tom, it's so brave of you to step up like this. I believe it's exactly what we need. We've all been through so much, and this garden could truly weave us back together." Her words struck deep. She wasn't just speaking to him. She was voicing the hopes of many. This was bigger than just Tom. It was about healing shared grief, knitting back together the fabric of their community. As evening approached, the heavy rains outside turned to a light drizzle. Through the window, the world appeared softer, kissed by the gentle patter of falling water. Tom felt a kindred connection between the rain and his intentions. It was a cleansing, an invitation for new beginnings. With newfound resolve, he addressed the room again. "Let us take it step by step. We'll hold a meeting next week to discuss the plan. Everyone's ideas are important, and we want to make this truly special." The diner erupted in cheers and claps. Tom's heart warmed as he realized he hadn't just invited them to build a garden. He'd opened the door to something much larger. A community willing to rise and come together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily grabbed her father's hand. "See? You were worried, and look what happened. You brought everyone together." Tom smiled, but it wasn't just a smile of pride. It was relief and gratitude too. They were stepping into unknown territory, and while it felt exhilarating, he couldn't shake the fear that bubbled beneath. What if the project unraveled? With this lingering uncertainty, he felt the weight of possibility press against him. Their journey was only just beginning, and he couldn't let doubt strangle their hopes. How would they navigate the challenges ahead? Tom tightened his grip on Emily's hand, steeled with a promise they could face anything together. But just as he began to feel settled, a chilling gust of wind swept through the diner, the bell above the door jingling loudly. Curiosity turned into concern as they all glanced toward the entrance. A new figure stood silhouetted against the fading daylight, shrouded in stormy mystery. The air seemed to vibrate with foreboding. Who could it be? What would they bring to this fragile flicker of hope? The door swung open, and the figure stepped inside, shaking off droplets as if they were the burdens of the world. The line between anxious murmurs and breathless silence blurred in the diner. Everyone turned their heads, eager yet uncertain. Tom squinted through the dim light, trying to get a better look. The newcomer was tall, wrapped in a heavy raincoat that dripped onto the diner floor. But what caught Tom's attention most was the sadness etched into the face of this stranger. He felt an inexplicable pull, as if this person's pain resonated with his own. "Evening," the man greeted, his voice gravelly yet soft. A hint of vulnerability laced his words, drawing Tom in closer. I heard about the project you all are starting. A tree, or something, right?" "Yeah, an oak tree," Tom responded after a beat, his heart thumping steadily in his chest. "It's meant to symbolize strength and bring everyone together." The man nodded slowly, the corners of his mouth twitching into an almost smile. "I lost my dad last year, and he always talked about how trees were like family's roots intertwining, growing stronger together." The atmosphere in the diner shifted. It was as if a window opened, letting in a breeze of shared sorrow and understanding. Maybe this stranger wasn't just an outsider after all. He could be a part of their story. Tom stepped forward, offering a reassuring nod. "We're trying to build something meaningful for our community. A place where we can remember, heal, and grow. Would you want to join us?" Before the man could answer, Emily bounced forward with her usual exuberance. "What is your name?" "Mine is Emily. We're planning the ceremony next week, and it's going to be so special." The stranger hesitated, the shadows of his past flickering in his eyes. "Ben," he replied softly, before he added, I can't promise anything, but I want to try." "Trying is all we ask," Tom said, feeling a warmth swell within him. Maybe this was just what they needed, a new perspective, a new voice. The others in the diner were beginning to feel it too. It was no longer just Tom inspiring them. They were being led by his courage, and now, Ben's openness. "He is right," someone shouted from the back. "We all have stories, and we can share them. That is how we grow." Tom looked around the diner, the energy shifting again. Ideas, once timid, started to bubble with excitement. They talked about the ceremony, about the stories that would be shared, and how they could keep Ben's words at the forefront. The symbolism of intertwining roots. As the night wore on, Tom felt different. The weight on his shoulders began to lift. They were not just planting a garden, they were building a community. He could almost visualize the oak tree standing tall in the center of town, a living testament to their collective strength and resilience. But still, a knot of worry tickled his mind. Would they be ready for the challenges ahead? Would Ben, and others like him, truly find their place in this vision of hope? As the chatter dwindled and friends began to depart, he realized he needed to talk to Ben again. He was drawn to the man's silent strength, but as he turned to find him, Tom discovered Ben had slipped out into the night without anyone noticing. "Wait!" Tom called, but the door had already swung shut, a chilly breeze whispering into the diner. What had he left behind? Would he return? Tom's thoughts raced, mingling with uncertainty and new resolve. Questions buzzed in his brain like bees in a garden, and he felt the urgency to act, to reach out once more. What did Ben truly need from this community? Would they confront his past, and their own, or would this project unravel before it even began? The answers felt elusive, but one thing was clear: this journey was just beginning. Tom stepped outside, the cool air hitting him like a wave. The rain had lightened, just a gentle mist now, and he listened for the sound of footsteps in the distance. But there was nothing. A haunting silence settled around him. He scanned the street, feeling the weight of unresolved questions pressing on his chest. Where had Ben gone? What had driven him to leave so suddenly? The diner's warm glow illuminated the thoughts racing in Tom's mind. The promise of building something together seemed so easily shattered. He turned back and entered the diner, his heart heavy. "Is he coming back?" Emily asked, already sensing the change in mood. "I don't know." Tom's voice was barely above a whisper, his shoulders slumping slightly. He seemed to connect to the project, but I have no idea what he is going through. "Maybe he just needs a little time," Emily said, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Sometimes people step away to figure things out." Tom nodded, but the doubt gnawed him. Was time what Ben truly needed, or was it something deeper? Over the next few days, the planning for the ceremony continued full steam ahead, yet Ben was a ghost in their thoughts. As they pinned flyers around town, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. He wanted Ben there. This project was about connection, and without him, it felt incomplete. One evening, waiting for the bus after another planning session, Tom spotted a figure across the street, framed against the fading sunlight. It was Ben, standing at a distance, watching. Heart racing, Tom crossed the road, each step feeling both exhilarating and terrifying. "Hey, Ben!" he called out, waving as he approached. To his relief, Ben stepped forward, a hesitant smile forming on his lips. "Didn't he think I'd see you again?" Ben said, his voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "Neither did I," Tom replied, catching his breath. "I'm glad you came back. We've been talking a lot about the ceremony. It just wouldn't feel right without you." Ben shifted, his expression darkening for a moment. "I'm not sure I belong here. I can feel the weight of your community, and I've got my own baggage." Tom felt the familiar ache of empathy. We all have baggage. That's why we're doing this, to share it, make it lighter together. You don't have to figure everything out alone. Ben looked at Tom, surprise flickering across his features. "I don't know if I can share my story, though. It's heavy." Tom got brave, stepping closer. Then share a piece of it. Just a little. We all want to support each other. Isn't that what this is about? Ben's shoulders relaxed just slightly. I guess I can try. The two stood in silence for a moment, the air thick with unspoken emotions. There was something sacred about what lay ahead, a possibility for healing and connection. But as they turned to head back to the diner, Ben froze. Just one last thing. What if I don't know how to tell my story? What if I can't find the words? You will, Tom reassured, feeling the surge of hope within him. We're all learning together. You start with once upon a time, and we'll help build from there. No pressure. Ben's smile widened, albeit hesitantly. Once upon a time, with those 4 words, the crack of possibility began to form between them. The path ahead felt smoother, yet at the edge of Tom's mind, a reminder lingered: every journey has obstacles waiting to be faced. Let us go inside, he said, guiding Ben back toward the diner, where warmth and community awaited them. But as they approached, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that the real journey was only just beginning. What stories would emerge from their shared silence? Would they find the strength together to face not only their pasts, but the challenges ahead? As Tom and Ben stepped back into the diner, the familiar clang of the bell above the door offered a comforting backdrop. The warmth inside wrapped around them like a welcome embrace. Tom could see familiar faces gathered in small groups, laughter punctuating the hum of conversation. It was an ordinary scene, yet it felt charged with unspoken possibilities, poised on the brink of change. Emily noticed them first, her eyes lighting up with encouragement. You're back. I knew you'd find your way. She rushed over, her coffee cup still in hand. There was an ease about her that made it clear she had been hoping for this moment. Yeah, I guess I needed a little time, Ben admitted. His words hung in the air, vulnerable yet somehow powerful. Time is good. It's when you figure out what you want, she said with a smile. Let us grab a corner booth and talk it out. There's strength in numbers. Tom motioned Ben toward the booth, and they slid into the worn leather seats. It felt a bit like being on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown together. This is our little circle, Tom said, a playful grin on his face, trying to lighten the atmosphere. You can say anything here. No judgment, just friends helping friends. Ben nodded slowly and looked around at the shimmering light fixtures and the comforting smells of frying bacon and fresh coffee. I want to. I really do, he said, sorting through the emotions flooding through him. But what if my story isn't enough? Tom leaned forward, his heart racing. It might not be a fairy tale, but it's yours. That makes it powerful. Other people need to hear it. They might see themselves in you. Emily reached across the table, squeezing Ben's hand gently. Let us start small, she said. We can share our stories, too. You're not alone in this. Everyone here has their own struggles. It's about being real with each other. The atmosphere shifted. One by one, they began to share fragments of their lives, moments born from pain, struggle, and resilience that wove a tapestry of connection. Tom spoke of his own journey, the way life had tossed him between dreams and reality. Emily talked about her family, and how they had each learned to cope with loss. As Ben listened, he felt the warmth of camaraderie beginning to thaw the ice encasing his emotions. It was as if he were peeling back layers, bit by bit, revealing parts of himself he'd kept hidden. Yet, anxiety still whispered in the back of his mind. What if he faltered? When it was finally his turn, Ben took a deep breath. The diner around him faded, and it felt as if he were standing alone under the spotlight, his voice trembling slightly as he began. Once upon a time, I thought life would go one way. Tom's heart pounded as he leaned closer, captivated. The table fell silent, everyone drawn into Ben's narrative, hanging on to each word as he spoke of his fears, the darkest days he had faced, and how they had shaped him. But just when Ben seemed to find his footing, he hesitated, the shadows creeping back into his expression. "It's hard to share this," he admitted, glancing down. Because I don't feel I have it all figured out." Tom placed a reassuring hand on Ben's shoulder. "It's okay not to have everything sorted. This is just the beginning. We're all figuring it out together." A flicker of a smile crept across Ben's face. A small but significant moment passed between them, binding them further. Yet even in this vulnerability, Tom felt a stirring uncertainty within. What would happen when the layers of the past began to unravel? Would Ben find the strength to confront what lay beneath? In the flickering light of the diner, as laughter mixed with the scent of coffee, a homey sanctuary, the air buzzed with an electric tension. Beneath the surface, the complexity of their stories was merely starting to unfurl. There was more to share, more to uncover, and even darker paths ahead. "Let us keep going," Tom encouraged, his voice firm yet soft. "This story needs to keep being told." Ben looked up, realization dawning in his eyes. "And what if we can't handle what comes next?" Tom took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of their shared moment. "Then we lean on each other because together we can face anything." Their gaze met, an understanding taking shape. But just then, Emily's cheerful chatter cut through the tension as she spoke cautiously. "Wait. Do you remember that old legend about the bridge?" Tom's heart quickened. "Yeah, why?" Emily smiled mischievously. "Because that bridge is less about the destination, and more about what is waiting on the other side. What awaited them, both at the diner and beyond, remained shrouded in uncertainty. The journey was only just beginning." The laughter in the diner faded slightly, as everyone turned their attention to Emily. There was a spark in her eyes, igniting curiosity. "You know the story, right? The bridge symbolizes not only crossing over challenges, but also facing what lies ahead with courage. It's a leap of faith." Tom felt a rush of warmth at her words, a strange mix of apprehension and hope. "What is on the other side?" he asked, voicing the question that everyone felt lingering in the air. Ben shifted nervously in his seat, his gaze darting between Tom and Emily. "And what if crossing that bridge means facing what we've been avoiding? What if it gets harder?" "That's the truth of it," Emily replied, her expression turning serious, yet encouraging. "Life isn't just about avoiding pain, it's about understanding it, learning from it. Each step can take you somewhere amazing if you embrace the journey." The booth went quiet, everyone reflecting on her words. It felt as if they were all teetering on the edge of something momentous, ready to dive headfirst into the depths of their emotions. Ben inhaled sharply, gathering his thoughts. "I guess I do want to get to the other side. But I don't want to do it alone." "None of us have to be alone," Tom assured, squeezing Ben's shoulder again. "The truth is, having this support makes it easier to face whatever demons we carry." Ben let the truth resonate for a moment. The thought of walking that path with friends felt comforting, but uncertainty still gnawed at him. "What if I stumble? What if my past pulls me back into the shadows?" "Then we help you up," Tom said firmly, determination etched in his features. "Nobody is perfect. Everyone deals with their rocks and burdens. But facing them together? That creates a bond no one can break." "Sometimes," Emily interjected softly, "the most incredible growth occurs when we confront our biggest fears. It's when we challenge ourselves that we find out who we truly are." Their words washed over Ben like a wave, bittersweet yet energizing. There was something about their faith in him that ignited a flicker of courage deep within. Taking a deep breath, he spoke again. "All right. Tell me about the bridge. What happens on the other side?" "It's different for everyone," Emily explained, her voice warming as she settled back into her seat. "Some discover new friendships or unexpected love. Others find freedom from their past or a chance to heal. It is about transformation." Tom smiled, his expression turning more thoughtful. I want to hear more about this bridge. And if we're going to share our stories, then we'll all step onto that bridge together. The momentum in the booth shifted again, drawing them closer. They spent the next few minutes brainstorming what kind of bridge they'd each like to build. Laughter filled the space, blending with clinking dishes and the hum of activity around them. Ben relaxed a little, lending his voice to the spirits around him. But still, a spark of anxiety crackled in the back of his mind, reminding him of the hurdles he faced. "Okay, so who wants to start?" Tom asked, enthusiasm radiating from him. The group paused momentarily, each of them contemplating the weight of their stories. The thought of sharing brought a swell of emotions. But then, the diner door swung open, and a cold breeze rushed in, tousling the edges of their thoughts. The newcomer, an older man wearing a long coat and a knit cap, stopped abruptly, surveying the room. Eyes wide, he seemed like someone in desperate need of connection. As if on cue, Emily glanced at Ben and said, "Sometimes, we don't even know who we might inspire by just sharing." "Look at him." Ben swiveled in his seat. "Do you think he is looking for a bridge too?" Tom nodded slowly, the flicker of determination gleaming in his eyes. "Let us invite him to join us. Everyone deserves a chance to talk." And so, with hearts pounding, their next step into the unknown began to take shape. They had opened the door to the diner, and now it felt like they were reaching out to open a whole new chapter, not just for themselves, but for anyone who sought light in the shadows. Ben felt a shiver of excitement run down his spine. What truly awaits them beyond the bridge in this diner? As the newcomer approached, the air shimmered with the possibility of connection, and the history of the diner was about to intertwine with another story entirely. Would they all embrace the chance for transformation, or would some prefer to stay safely in the shadows? The elderly man stepped closer, and the warmth of the diner felt ever more inviting against the chill that had followed him in. His eyes darted around the booth, taking in the youthful energy and laughter that contrasted sharply with the heaviness he seemed to carry. Tom gestured for him to join them, a welcoming smile spreading across his face. "Hey there. Want to join us?" Tom called out, enthusiasm breaking through the din. The man paused, uncertainty knitting his brow. He looked as if he had forgotten what it felt like to be part of a group. I wouldn't want to intrude." "Not an intruder, just a friend," Emily chimed in, her tone light yet genuine. She patted the seat next to her, beckoning him over. With a deep breath, the man shuffled forward, surrendering to the urge for connection. He lowered himself onto the edge of the booth. "Thank you. I'm John," he said, his voice gravelly but warm. "Welcome, John. I'm Tom, and this is Emily and Ben," Tom introduced, gesturing to the others. "Nice to meet you all," John said, a hint of relief crossing his features. For the first time in a while, he felt a sense of being seen. Emily leaned forward. "We were just talking about taking brave steps in life, about crossing our own metaphorical bridges. Have you ever had to face something big?" John smiled faintly, scratching his temple thoughtfully. "Oh, plenty of times. But the biggest leap was when I became a father. You think you're ready, but nothing prepares you for the joys and heartaches. I lost my son last year." That bridge felt insurmountable. The air grew heavy. Ben's heart raced, mirroring John's vulnerability. "I'm so sorry," he managed to say, his voice shaky. John looked up, meeting Ben's gaze. "Thank you. It's a hard journey. But there are moments, tiny snippets of hope. I just wish I had known I wasn't alone then." Tom leaned in, a knowing look in his eyes. "That's why we're all here. We're ready to step into our stories together. We've all got shadows we deal with." "Yeah," Ben added, his emotions mirroring the sincerity in John's eyes. "Sometimes sharing it makes it all less heavy. Maybe we help each other like building that bridge." John nodded, visibly touched. You young ones have a clarity I wish I had at your age. Maybe I can share my journey. It's not just about grief. It's about how I learned to carry love forward." Emily's eyes sparkled with interest. "That sounds like a beautiful story, John. It could help us all find our way." He cleared his throat, visibly steeling himself. "Well, it all started when I realized I had to face my grief instead of letting it swallow me whole. I began volunteering, helping others. I discovered that sharing stories isn't just about the past, it's a way to offer hope." The diner around them faded into a comforting hum, cocooning them in a bubble of shared truths and compassion. John's story had the potential to forge connection, to show that bridges could be built from even the most painful experiences. As he spoke, fingers trembling slightly, the air began to thicken with emotion. Ben felt something shift within him, a warmth spreading in tandem with John's words. Each confession felt like a step deeper into the unknown, a potential for transformation. Maybe we're all meant to carry a piece of one another's journeys," Ben murmured, realizing the truth of those words even as they left his lips. Eyes sparkled, hope igniting in each of them, as they contemplated the shared experiences that bound them together. But there was still a weight hanging in the air, unaddressed and significant. "What will happen when we reach the other side?" Tom asked, curiosity peaking just as a new wave of shivers swept through Ben, inviting more questions. As John prepared to answer, a loud clap of thunder rumbled outside, matching the rising tension in the diner. Rain began to pelt against the windows, as if nature itself was responding to their conversation. Ben's heart raced anew. What lessons awaited them in the tumult outside? Would John's story encourage them to embrace their own challenges more fully? Or would they find themselves trapped in the very shadows they feared? The answers lay ahead, waiting just beyond the bridge they were preparing to cross together. As the storm outside intensified, the atmosphere within the diner felt electric. Each story shared carved a path toward healing, illuminating the fears that bound them. John's voice trembled with emotion, each word wrapping them tighter in connection. The rain drummed against the roof, echoing the turmoil each of them had faced. "Every one of us faces storms, but we have to learn to dance in the rain," John said, his gaze sweeping over the group. "That's how you honor the love you've lost." His words resonated deeply, ringing true to Tom's heart. Emily leaned in, eyes wide with understanding. "So your grief, your memories, they can inspire hope, not just pain?" "Exactly," John nodded, a bittersweet smile appearing. "When I started sharing my story, I realized I was giving life to my son's memory. I was lighting a path through the darkness." Ben sat in silence, realization dawning upon him, forging a bond with John. "The storms we face can bring us together in ways we can't predict," he murmured, feeling the weight and warmth of shared experiences. "But how do we keep moving forward when there is still fear?" Turning to Ben, Tom felt compelled to share openly. "It's about acknowledging our vulnerabilities. I lost my wife, and for too long, I hid behind my pride, thinking I could carry it all alone. But being brave means leaning on each other." As he spoke, a wave of collective recognition washed over them. They were all fighting battles, some seen, many hidden. The storm outside mirrored their internal struggles, but within the diner, a refuge of hope began to materialize. "Let us take this one step further," John proposed, a newfound resolve filling his voice. "What if we shared our stories during the ceremony? It could be our healing." Gasps filled the booth, each face lighting up with anticipation. "Yeah! We can create a space to honor losses while celebrating how far we've come," Emily exclaimed. "Like a bridge between our past and our future," Tom added, excitement bubbling within him. "Stories can be the roots that connect us, just like the mighty oak we're planting." The unified energy wrapped around them, binding their emotions and shared hopes like a warm blanket. In that moment, as thunder flashed in the darkness outside, then realized all the uncertainty that had held him back was shifting. When he spoke, his voice was steady. "I want to share my peace. Every leap we take together makes us stronger." Cheers erupted, little by little illuminating the diner's space with an infectious thrill of possibility. What lay ahead felt unknown but promising, an open invitation to step beyond their fears into the light of friendship. A small silence followed, punctuated by the rain, as if the world outside held its breath for a moment. "Okay," Tom said, his heart racing as he glanced at the diner full of people, friends, and newfound family around him. "Let us commit to this. We'll meet again before the ceremony and prepare our stories." In agreement, nods leaned toward him. A chorus of yes enveloped the room, joined into a harmonic blend of enthusiasm and vulnerability. The storm still raged on outside, but inside, a warmth spread, the warmth of a community knitting its bonds tighter, protecting each other against the chaos of the world. Emily leaned toward Tom, her eyes sparkling. "We're finally growing together." "Absolutely. And we're going to carry it all forward, honoring those we've lost," Tom replied, his heart swelling with renewed purpose. As conversations resumed in earnest, laughter mingled with tears, shaping an atmosphere of connection and openness. For the first time in a long while, Tom felt the burdensome weight of grief lightening, replaced by the effervescent joy of hope and togetherness. And so the storm, while fierce, catalyzed something remarkable. It spurred a transformation. Each person there became the embodiment of resilience, ready to share their stories and celebrate the love that still flickered in their hearts. At that moment, they were no longer alone on their journeys. They were part of a tapestry, woven together with threads of shared hope, love, resilience, and strength. As night fell, the diner became a sanctuary, aglow with possibility. Tom looked around at Emily, John, and Ben, deeply proud of the connections forged in that space. "Together, we're unstoppable," he said with conviction. As the night wore on, laughter and stories continued to flow. The diner, a beacon of hope in the storm, promising brighter days ahead. Now is the time for you to be part of this amazing journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next incredible transformations and stories just like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this heartfelt ending and share what story resonates with you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this uplifting transformation. Let us build our community together.